My family's had land in the Black Hills since the early 1900s, and we've been putting up with elk now for quite a few years. And there's a lot of my neighbors and other people in the Black Hills that are not happy with the current situation. So we started to form a new landowner group, which I'll talk about briefly. But I'd really like to thank the stock growers for allowing me to talk about this. I've been a member for 25, 26 years, and stock growers have been an important part of my life, actually. But I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate what this group does, and I appreciate the people that have stepped into these leadership positions and done this. Not everybody steps up, but it's not easy because, well, the pay ain't very good, is it? So anyway, appreciate that very much. On our place, I'll just give you a little rundown of what this sort of looks like. We got about 160, 70 acres. Originally homesteaded by a couple different people. My great-grandfather bought them out. And after that, my grandfather ran dairy cattle. Then he went to beef cattle, so that's how I ended up. I bought that little cow herd from him in about 1990. So the elk weren't around really back then. But by 2000, we were starting to see some, and by 2010, we were seeing a lot more. So when you look at what's going on with this elk situation, there's several facets to it, not the least of which is the amount of forage that these elk eat, because they'll eat 3% of their body weight a day. They say a 1,200-pound cow eats about 2.5%. The wildlife people I talked to that told me that 3 years ago assumed that for cattle too. Stuff I got here is from one of the universities, so it's within half a point. It's not a big deal. So anyway, we've got hay land. We haven't harvested any hay for about 6 years. So the forage loss on this is huge. A decrease in hay yields after 2010 looks to be pretty significant as well. So back in April, when Game and Fish was asking for comments on their proposal to raise the herd by 1,000 head in the Black Hills, of course based on habitat, yada yada, but we all know they want more. So problem being they can't manage what they've got now. 68% of the elk by their aerial surveys are in Unit 2. Unit 2 is the big unit that is on the west side of Highway 385 and runs approximately from Custer, the burn there, clear up to Highway 85 that goes from Lead clear over to Wyoming. So it's a huge unit. They've never split it down, and that's where we're at. We're in the northern part of that unit, just south of Deadwood, about 13 miles. So my estimate of elk use days on a 9-month period is about 3,600 elk. That's a lot of elk. This can be different depending on snowpack, drought, ATVs, etc. My forage loss estimate is at 36 ton, which is $7,200 on $200 delivered hay per ton. But now we're at 300 to 350 from what I hear. So give you an idea what that looks like as a cost. They do have a hayland contract, which we've been participating in, $1,300. It's appreciated, but it's not significant. This problem also extends to the Black Hills National Forest land, where we have allotment owners who are running their cattle, and cattle and elk compete directly. They eat basically the same forage, and it's very difficult to have this many elk. So far, it's worked, kind of. But the landowners, the small landowners, even the big landowners, if you've got elk damage, you're taking a beating, and you're not getting compensated for that. This private land grass, many of us view this as a takings under the Fifth Amendment. The state and the public does not own this grass, we do. So small ag holdings in the Black Hills are important for wildlife habitat and also view sheds. So if you're a small place like we are, we've kept subdivision out, and we've got a beautiful place. It's worth a lot more than it is for cattle ranching, I can tell you that. We're leasing it now to my neighbor who bought my cows in 23. Most of the landowners in our area have worked with game and fish in the past by allowing hunting and access to helicopters for elk management and research. They like to use your meadows if they can to capture these elk and collar them, turn them loose. Landowner tags are way too difficult to obtain with this 240-acre requirement. This should be based on elk use days with a much lower requirement for acreage, i.e. 80 acres, that is classified as ag use. Actually, in Lawrence County, it could be 41 acres. In Meade, I think it's 70, but we all know how that works. As far as their tag distribution, we're pretty unhappy with that because many of us can't get a tag. If you don't have 240 acres, you're SOL. We believe that should be audited, or I do. So that needs to be looked at. They have a fencing program where if you buy the material, they'll reimburse you for that, and they'll allow you 50% of that for labor, 50% of that cost. So I've looked at that. We've done one small project to separate pastures, probably at least 10 years ago. At that time, this contractor was charging $1.25 a foot, and I'm pretty sure that's up to at least $2 by now. So I took 100 yards of fence and ran some numbers. I came out with a game and fish reimbursement of under $1 a foot. So that gives you that story. So there's a lot of us that feel the same way, so we started to form a landowner group. We had our first meeting, I guess it was a little over a month ago now. Our state senator, Randy Dybert from District 31, is helping us with this, and he's really going to be a big help. He was approached by several of us and agreed to do this. So we haven't met a second time yet, but we will. I anticipate this group will seek membership from a hills-wide situation and maybe even in the foothills. I know there's people that are close to the Black Hills experiencing the same things. So if you look at the Forest Service side of the situation, you think the Forest Service is going to allow allotment owners to run another 500 cows per month on the forest? I'm pretty doubtful, I'd say. We know they're not going to do that. So if Game and Fish gets an extra 1,000 head, shouldn't the ranchers get half that? Because takes about 2 elk for what a cow eats, roughly. It's pretty close. So that's kind of the gist of our argument. And stock growers in April did send out a email to members that I put together, and I appreciate that a lot. At our first meeting, the things we discussed were a lot of what I've already talked about. Harm to landowners by adding 1,000 head of elk to the herd. That's if habitat allows, they say. Well, we know they're all headed for that because the original elk management plan subscribed to like 6,000 to 8,000 head, I think. And they had a task force and a stakeholder meeting and all that jazz. And the Public Lands Council objected. I wrote that objection. We talked about game fish and parks, hayland contracts, fencing contracts, effects on the range program and allotment holders, distribution of tags to affected landowners, and the cost of elk on the landscape, the benefits provided by landowners. So if you look at the western states treat their landowners way better. They actually give tags or let you get tags, and in a lot of those places you can transfer those tags. You can sell the tag basically, so you can be compensated for the damage these elk are causing on your ranch. They're surely not doing that here. And they claim that it's like over 50% of the landowners in a survey they did were fine with the number of elk and were okay with more elk. I'd like to know what the hell their definition of a landowner is, because I haven't talked to anybody in our neighborhood that knows about this survey anyway. So I'd like them to clear that up. So I guess my last thing would be stay tuned as we put this group together. We're going to do this formally, and we'll see where we go, but we want to get game fish's attention because I've been to commission meetings, not for a while, but they allow you 3 minutes if you come in on an open forum. Well, you're going to talk about this subject in 3 minutes? I don't think so. So they completely ignored, in my opinion, our landowner comments. They said 20%, 80% were for this proposal, 20% were against it. Well, you know who the 20% were? They were landowners. So if you had 20% of the landowners against something that you talk about in the winter, pretty good chance that landowners are not for it, I would say. So anyway, I'll be around later if you want to ask me any questions or visit with me. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Tom and Doris and the board for allowing this to happen. I appreciate it.